So when we're exercising, glucose is supplied at a rate of 0.2 to 0.4 grams per minute by the liver. So that's not too much when we look at how much our muscles are using per minute when we're doing our exercise, 1 to 2 grams per minute. So you can see that the amount of glucose that our bodies are providing during exercise is not enough for how much our muscles are using. So when we're doing our long duration exercise, after 3.5 hours, you can have hypoglycemia, and that's at a lower intensity. 58% of VO2 max is pretty moderate. You're not working really, really hard at that level. So it's going to take a little bit longer before you get to the point where you don't have enough energy in your system. But at a higher intensity, 74% of VO2 max, which is more intense but still not the hardest that we can really work, we're going to have only 2.5 hours before you reach hypoglycemia. So you can imagine when you get to higher levels of intense exercise, if you're really, really pushing yourself, it's going to take even less time before you don't have enough energy in your system to keep you going. Next, please. So before exercise, it's important to make sure you get enough calories. And 1 to 4 hours before, it's good to get 1 to 5 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight. I made a quick estimation so you can get an idea of what that would be for a 150-pound person. It can be anywhere between 272 to 1,360 calories. So there's a really big range there. Now, the further away from the time of your run you're eating, probably the more you'd want to eat. If you're an hour before, the lower end is probably going to be enough. If you have too much in your stomach, then your body's busy digesting and can't do the work. If you're eating an hour before exercise, you want to have the same range of calories, but it's better to have liquid form. It's easier for your body to break it down to get the energy into your bloodstream so that you can access it for work. And then it's also important to make sure that you practice a lot of this stuff during your training so that when it's actually race time, you know what works for your body. It's not always a good idea to eat or drink something that you've never eaten or drank before a race because you don't know how your body's going to respond to it. And if you've ever eaten something that did not agree with you and then tried to go for a run, you know that it is not a good position to be in when you're out on the road. You've got to go and there's nowhere to do it. Not a good place to be. And you definitely don't want that to happen during a race. So that's why we practice this stuff during our training, because if the training run gets ruined, there are more training runs. But with your race, it's a little bit more disappointing. Next, please. Of course, it's always important to stay hydrated, especially down here when it's the end of September and we're still, in the 80s this morning, versus in New York, I know it's getting down to the 60s already, so they have a little more pleasant weather than we do. So it's always important. Did I miss one? Oh, I did. Okay, so I'm ahead of you guys by 1. So during exercise, it's important to supplement your calories because, like I said before, our bodies can't quite keep up with the amount of energy that we need when we're doing this long duration, high intensity stuff. So it's good to consume your extra calories 30 minutes before the onset of fatigue. So we have to kind of estimate when that would be. You don't want to wait until you're already starting to feel low because then it might be too late. We should ingest extra calories at a rate of 30 to 60 grams per hour, which is 120 to 240 calories. So we have the Goose here, and it even has the directions on our gels. 15 minutes before and every 45 minutes, that's a good range because that's going to get you within that range of the 120 to 240. And again, there's a little bit of trial and error. You'll see what works better for you as you practice this stuff during your long runs. It's also important to have the proper glucose concentration. Luckily, I'm pretty sure the science that goes into the gels gets this down, but if you're mixing your own Gatorade solution, for those of you that like to be on top of your own things, it's good to have less than 8% of carbohydrate load. After that, our bodies don't necessarily respond very well. It actually slows our uptake of water and of the energy, and so then it's not going to help you, it's going to hurt you.